This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Shiver alert. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Get ready, folks, for some uncommon cold.
This is going to be the coldest stuff we've seen since 2023.
It's nose-numbing, face-freezing, knee-knocking cold, and it's enough to cause hypothermia on exposed skin. Forecaster Adam Klotz.
The temperatures are going to drop rapidly throughout all of Saturday. By the time you wake up Sunday morning, we're going to be, feels like temperatures, negative 15 to negative 20.
Heather Kenyon with the National Weather Service in Buffalo tells News Talk 930, if you're sick of the cold, hang in there.
We are going to get warmer with temperatures slowly climbing up to near normal, which is about the freezing mark into the next work week. However, it does look like we're going to stay on the cooler side through next week. Just not the extreme cold that we're going to see this weekend.
An extremely rare extreme cold warning is in effect this weekend for the entire Family Life listening area. Along with the cold, some snow's on the way too. Meteorologist Kevin Williams has that weekend forecast coming up. Sanctioned suicide. That's the other big story today. New York Governor Kathy Hochul will sign today the Medical Aid in Dying Act. It makes the Empire State the 13th state to permit doctor-assisted suicide.
I'm proud that I gave people the choice when life gets really hard, that they don't have to prolong a death that's inevitable.
Pro-life activist Jessica Rogers says even with changes to the assisted suicide law, this legislation being signed today by the governor is, in a word, dangerous.
And unfortunately, the amendments that she has offered do not change the core of this bill, which will harm vulnerable patients who have inequitable access to care.
Rogers is concerned about potential loopholes in the law and training for doctors. State Senator George Borrello says assisted suicide is a slippery slope to go down.
I have, unfortunately, close personal experience with ALS, that when you're at the end of your life, you're not physically able to put a pill in your mouth. How are we going to ensure that that person was not murdered by having someone else give them those drugs, even if it was a compassionate thing that they were trying to do? We cannot prove that because we're not doing this in a controlled environment, and no one will be there when it happens.
Despite those concerns, 6 months from now, terminally ill New York State residents who are given 6 months or less to live by a doctor will be able to commit suicide through life-ending prescription medication. A deadline has come and gone in the kidnapping case of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. The Pima County, Arizona sheriff spoke recently to NBC News.
What gives you hope that Nancy is still out there?
Wow. You have to have hope. You have to have hope. Come on, this is somebody's mom. We're going to find her.
Private investigator J.J. Arms.
This does not fit your typical kidnapping. It's very uncommon for an elderly person to be abducted.
6 days into the search, Nancy Guthrie's son Cameron has issued a new plea to whomever was behind the recently revealed ransom note.
We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
The deadline in the note was 5 p.m. yesterday. The next one is this coming Monday. Chad Massey is a retired FBI hostage negotiator.
We don't know what's transpired, between the family, law enforcement, and the kidnappers. But there's got to be something in place. There's something that is telling them, we have to read this statement. We want to communicate with the kidnappers. We want them to know that this is a loved person.
Former Detective T.J. Ward thinks whomever took Nancy Guthrie did their homework.
The cameras and everything that were destroyed and taken down, and the camera on the door and everything, it seems like somebody knew a lot about this lady before they even got there.
The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the safer recovery of the 84-year-old grandmother, whom police say is without critical medication. Nuclear disarmament talks got underway today with Iran in Oman. Foreign affairs analyst Harvey Littman is not expecting a breakthrough.
The Iranians' intent is to manipulate the United States. This is a regime that uses negotiations simply as a tactic to delay so they could continue on their goal, which they tell us all the time is to destroy America.
These were the first face-to-face talks since the 12-day war back in June when our military obliterated 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Mideast expert Joe Zach.
The Iranian regime is at its weakest point since the revolution in 1979. And this regime that has been responsible for the murder of over 1,000 U.S. citizens is currently in virtually survival mode.
International observers say Tehran still has enough enriched uranium to make nearly a dozen atomic bombs. President Trump says a new nuclear arms treaty is needed with Russia.
For the first time in decades, there is no agreement capping the number of strategic nuclear weapons in American and Russian arsenals following the expiration this week of the New START treaty.
The president wants to have our nuclear experts work on a new, improved, and modernized treaty that can last long into the future.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. President Trump says he'd also like to see a non-proliferation agreement include China, warning that country is rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal.
Correspondent Jared Halpern. Lawmakers are working on a plan to reform Homeland Security after passing a bill that only funds the Department of Homeland Security for another couple of weeks.
At the end of the day, we are not going to do things that are going to undermine law enforcement officials' ability to do their jobs.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Democrats are demanding ICE agents demask, wear body cameras, and get judicial warrants before making arrests. The White House has announced the release of TrumpRx.gov. FDA Administrator Dr. Marty Makary says the direct-to-consumer website is designed to offer the lowest price available for prescription meds.
This is healthcare reform. If you want to see prices come down by 80, 90%, not 1 or 2%, then this is the path we've got to go. Simplify healthcare, make it available direct, empower people with money to make purchases, and do common sense things. We don't need to tweak the system. We need to fix the system.
Dr. Makary says the cash price on many of the drugs available at TrumpRx.gov is actually lower than the copay you pay through insurance. Opening ceremonies get underway today at the Winter Olympics in both Milan and Cortina, Italy. Reporter Kelly O'Grady is in Milan.
This Winter Games is the most spread out in history, so there will be 2 ceremonies for the first time ever and 2 Olympic flames.
We have 2 cauldron, 2 Olympic anthem, 2 double flag. I know the athlete will be super happy. And for me, the athletes are the real celebrity of the Olympics.
Marko Balic is the creative director of this game's opening ceremonies, the 16th he's worked on. Notable attendees include Mariah Carey, who will be singing with opera star Andrea Bocelli in Italian.
Vice President Vance and his wife are representing Team USA at the opening ceremonies. NBC coverage of the Winter Olympics, including the fan favorite Parade of Nations, starts tonight at 8 o'clock. The countdown's on to Super Bowl 60 this Sunday in California. Correspondent Rory O'Neill.
The Seattle Seahawks will battle the New England Patriots at Levi Stadium. The big game receives the highest national security designation, with dozens of federal, state, and local agencies coming together to keep the event safe. And while that does include members of the Department of Homeland Security, NFL Chief Security Officer Kathy Lanier made clear this week that there is no ICE deployed with them at the Super Bowl. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Speaking of football, L.A. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford edged out New England Patriots signal caller Drake May last night to win this year's NFL MVP honors. It was the closest vote in 22 years. Stafford says he shares the award with the rest of his teammates.
My name's going to be on this trophy, but there's so many guys. A lot of you here today, and I appreciate the heck out of you for being here. Your name should be on there too.
At 37, Stafford is the third oldest player in NFL history to be named MVP, behind Tom Brady, who was 40 when he won it in 2017, and Aaron Rodgers, who was 38 when he won it in 2021. Still to come on the Noon Report for a Friday, Dems party in Syracuse, Operation Valentine, and major shakeup in the New York Assembly.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking what appears likely to be a brutally cold weekend around these parts. I've got the numbers. Your complete forecast is coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Syracuse, New York's playing host today to the New York State Democratic Party convention. It's the first time the Salt City has hosted that political pep rally since 1982. Party leaders are nominating candidates for statewide offices in the November midterms. It is a history-making convention today. For the first time ever in New York State, 2 women will headline the Democratic gubernatorial ticket. Governor Hochul's chosen former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams to be her running mate. As mentioned earlier, New York today becomes the 13th state to permit physician-assisted suicide. Governor Hochul will sign the bill into law, the so-called Medical Aid in Dying Act. Critics are outraged.
This is a tragedy for New York State. This is going to be a complete culture change, a complete mindset change for patients, for providers, for the medical industry.
Christina Fadden with the New York Alliance Against Assisted Suicide says value voters need to remember this day come November.
We as Christians this fall, when we go to vote, we need to remember and be aware of who voted for this in Albany. A lot of people stood against it, thankfully, courageously, but we need to know who voted for it, and in no ways accept that. We must use our power of our vote to send them a message that it's not acceptable.
We'll talk more about the perils of assisted suicide coming up later on Capital Connection. Major shakeup in the New York State Legislature. Assembly Minority Leader Will Barclay is stepping down after an almost 25-year political career. Back in 2020, he assumed the role of top Republican in the Assembly. Barclay will be resigning from that role as Minority Leader in the coming days and will not seek re-election in November. The GOP leader represented the 120th Assembly District, which includes parts of Oswego, Onondaga, and Cayuga counties between Syracuse and Watertown. Severe weather's led to an urgent need for blood donations in central Pennsylvania alone. The Red Cross is short by about 20,000 donations. Spokeswoman Laura Burke.
So putting that in perspective, here in our region, 30 blood drives have been affected, with more than 700 blood product donations going uncollected. So it's certainly a call to action for everyone who's healthy and able to donate blood.
If you'd like to give the gift of life, you can find a blood drive near you at AmericanRedCross.org. Lehigh Valley Hospital in Dixon City, PA, remains closed today after a massive fire Wednesday evening. Cleanups underway after the blaze tore a hole through the roof of that building. Peggy Howell witnessed it all.
I just couldn't believe what I saw. It was just devastating, absolutely devastating. See the fire coming through the roof, and scary.
Hospital staff were able to safely evacuate close to 80 patients. The cause of that fire remains a mystery. Concerned NYSEG customers got to air their grievances, so to speak, over sky-high energy bills at a public forum yesterday at a nursing home in Johnson City, New York. NYSEG President Patricia Nilsson was there.
We want them to tell us their story, let us see what we can do to help, but also customers need to realize that this is a time of very expensive energy supply costs, very challenging system maintenance that has to be done, and it is difficult, and we're here to help when we can.
NYSEG says energy bills have increased an average of 44% from last year. The utility provider recommends you turn down your thermostat and take shorter showers to help lower the cost of your energy bill during the winter months. New legislation in the Pennsylvania House requires schools throughout the Commonwealth Commonwealth provide recess and lunch for all students. The bill calls for at least 30 minutes of recess and 30 minutes of lunch for all students in grades K through 12. Advocates say recess provides a necessary break for physical activity and free play, which has important benefits for a child's growth and overall development. Keeping in the Commonwealth, PA politicians are proposing English-only driver's license tests. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
The legislation was introduced by State Senators Doug Mastriano and Camara Bartolotta. They say it strengthens highway safety, ensuring those that take the test can actually read the signs on the road. The bill would also prohibit the use of interpreters or translators for assistance during the testing process. Right now in Pennsylvania, you can take the test at the DMV in 30 different languages, from Farsi to Punjabi to Somali. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Sarah. While many of us, including yours truly, like to gripe about the cold, they're not doing that in Mayville, New York, because in Mayville, New York, they need this cold for an ice castle that's currently under construction. This ice castle is the signature attraction at Chautauqua County's annual Winter Fest, which starts next weekend. The castle is built from blocks of ice that are cut out of Chautauqua Lake. Those blocks are then hauled out by a dedicated team of volunteers.
Really amazing. I love it so much. It's really cold though, but it's so much fun.
Get 30, 40 kids in the morning and in the afternoon. Without them, getting all these blocks out of the lake would be almost impossible.
That's some castle. Check it out if you can. Up to 20,000 people expected to attend the 39th annual Mayville Winter Fest. It runs February 13th through the 15th in Chautauqua County, New York. Operation Valentine is underway in Western New York. It collects thousands of handmade Valentine's Day cards for military vets and active duty troops. Here's Family Life's Dee Haley.
The outreach program brings together schools, youth organizations, and scout troops to create cards meant to show appreciation for military members. Organizers set a goal of collecting 1,700 cards this year, but exceeded expectations, gathering a total of 2,654 cards. Members of the 914th Air Refueling Wing from Niagara Falls picked up the cards, which will be distributed to the Niagara Falls Air Base, the Socorro Post in North Tonawanda, and local VFW locations. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
All right, thank you very much, Dee. Let's pause next. Check out your sports. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, Olympic competition started off great for the United States. The women's hockey team crushed Czechia 5-1 in the first preliminary round. Up next for them is Finland tomorrow. The U.S. mixed doubles curling team of Corey and Corey won their first 2 matches. Corey with a K is the guy on the team, Corey Dropkin, and Corey with a C is the woman on the team, Corey TC. If they win their next match, it will be the best start ever for any U.S. curling team. And, of course, the Winter Games officially kick off today with the opening ceremony. All right, coming back to the States. On the ice, the Sabres dropped their second straight game, falling to Pittsburgh 5-2. Buffalo scored first, but then the Pens scored the next 3 goals to put the game out of reach. The Rangers shut out 2-0 Carolina. The Islanders skated past the Devils 3-1. Philadelphia fell to the Senators 2-1. The Caps, Lightning, and Knights, your other winners. On the hardwood, the Lakers outlasted the 76ers 119-115. Washington, Orlando, Atlanta, Toronto, Charlotte, San Antonio, and Golden State also picked up wins. And, of course, we've got football news. Matthew Stafford won the MVP award by a very close vote. 366-361 over Drake May. May, of course, will be trying to lead his New England Patriots to a Super Bowl victory on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. For Stafford, it's the first MVP award for the 37-year-old, which makes him the oldest player in NFL history at the time of his first MVP award. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen came in third in the voting. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Still to come on the Noon Report. New York sanctions suicide. PA pushes pot, and detransitioner wins in court. We're talking about it next on Capital Connection.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Clouds and sunshine. Flurries will be departing. High temperatures 20s. Tonight, some clouds, some starlight, low temps, single digits and teens. Tomorrow morning, sun and cloudy with afternoon flurries, a high in the 20s to near 30. Watch for snow squall later tomorrow night. Bitterly cold on Saturday. Occasional snow and flurries, blowing snow, and temperatures falling. Saturday afternoon, readings will be in the single digits. Some areas will be below zero. Wind chills on Saturday from minus 15 to minus 30.
All right, Kevin, bundle up if you're headed out. It is Friday, folks. Congratulations, you've made it. The 6th of February, and this is the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are, as always, Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Gear at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, welcome back, gentlemen. Michael, I want to begin with you and the governor's big speech back on Tuesday, a more than $53 billion budget proposal. Got to wonder what's in there that you like, what's in there that you don't like, and how realistic is it to assume that they'll get an on-time budget this year?
Well, the speech itself was more of a campaign speech, but when looking in the details of the budget, it's more of the priorities that the governor's had previously, which is more spending. So we have fights ahead of us. But it was clear in his speech, he's running for more than governor, I think.
Yeah. Last week, Jason, we were wondering when she'll sign it, and she has signed it. Governor Hochul now signing what she calls the Medical Aid in Dying Act, and that law will take effect in 6 months in New York, allowing physician-assisted suicide. Jason, what's going to happen in those 6 months as we get ready for this new law?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a terrible day for New York that we're now crossing that bridge, and we've entered the era of state-sanctioned suicide here in the Empire State. In the next 6 months, the Department of Health will be drawing up regulations regarding how this will work and how you'll get the deadly drugs to take one's own life. And I can tell you that they've already been working hand in glove with the advocates, the pro-suicide position. Compassionate Choices have been all over this, working with the Department of Health to get what they want in those regulations.
We've been told there will be no coercion of doctors that morally object to this. Do you think that will be the case?
Well, as often happens with these kinds of controversial pieces of legislation where religious liberty may be involved, is they begin by putting in those protections, but then almost immediately there are those that come out to try to strip away those protections in the legislative sessions to come. And even the public comments already made by the activists for assisted suicide, they're indicating they'll be back for more, that those safeguards will not stand.
All right, we'll see. In 6 months, it becomes law in New York. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle either. Michael, let's get back to the governor and his big speech on Tuesday. I thought it was interesting. He only really mentioned marijuana in a sentence, and he called it cannabis reform. The House continues to beat this drum for pot. The Senate has so far resisted. I wonder, why is this bad fiscal policy, apart from the harmful effects that it has on society and the culture at large?
Well, a significant part of the governor's speech dealt with issues like mental health problems here in our state, and yet the legalization of marijuana would exacerbate many of those problems. It lead to family decline, it lead to mental health problems, schizophrenia, driving under the influence, all of these kinds of things, and they think they make it up with the revenue that comes in from marijuana. You know, you asked me in the first question about whether this budget will be done on time. The governor wants it to happen. It's an election year, and so they're going to push for that, but issues like this one that are very sticky wickets may delay the budget as it goes forward.
Yeah, Jason, New York State Democrats holding their party convention in Syracuse today. They're pretty optimistic about their chances in 2026. The governor is going to use this political pep rally to really rail against ICE. I know they're going to make a big thing about how the Empire State is pushing back against the federal enforcement efforts here. She's got this local cops, local crimes initiative, which would bar state and local police from assisting ICE on non-criminal matters. Is this a risky position for the governor to take in an election year?
Well, I think it is risky depending upon the results. It's not risky from a poll position right now. There's a lot of opposition to ICE in New York State, as we are a heavily Democratic state. But if you look at what happened in Minneapolis, it's when there was no involvement, no coordination, no collaboration between ICE and local law enforcement. You had the very difficult situations there that did occur. Mm-hmm. When local law enforcement can actually provide crowd control and can back up the efforts that ICE are engaged in, then the public is kept safe. So it is a risky position for the governor if more ICE involvement moves to New York and she refuses to engage with local law enforcement.
Yeah. Michael, back to the governor's speech on Tuesday. I didn't hear much about school choice. I know he's had a position in favor of that in the past. Last week was National School Choice Week. I've seen polls that show anywhere from 60 to 80% of Americans support school choice. Did you hear anything in the governor's speech that would lead you to think that he'd be willing to play ball on this issue this year?
No, he didn't really touch that issue at all, and it's one of those, again, 60 to 80% in support kind of issues that Democrats, and especially Governor Shapiro, choose to ignore. He's ignored the support for protecting girls' sports. And so with the issue of school choice, the governor, when he first ran for office, said he wanted school choice. He has a big decision ahead of him with the big, beautiful bill, school choice tax credit program, to opt Pennsylvania in. We're hoping at least there'll be some pressure for him to do that as he seeks another term as governor.
Jason, there was a landmark case in Westchester County, New York this week, a jury awarding a detransitioner $2 million, claiming that the doctors who performed the mastectomy when she was just 16 are guilty of medical malpractice. How big of a ruling was this?
Well, I think it's an enormous ruling, and the fact that it came out of New York is particularly significant, too, as you thought this had been one of the last holdouts in these types of things. So it really came from a court here in what is a very liberal state. What is happening is you're beginning to see the pushback that I think it will take to finally break that back of the transgender movement, and that is you're going to see the lawsuits. People will respond to that. You already have seen the Plastic Surgeons Association backing away from these child mutilation procedures. You're seeing even the American Medical Association now walking it back. And I think that's a response to medical associations saying, we don't want to run the risk of being sued over these matters. So follow the dollars and you'll begin to see the whole transgender movement begin to unravel.
Yeah. Michael, I know that you've been watching this landmark case as well, because there are hospitals in your state that are doing this very thing even today, despite the laws against it. Your reaction to this landmark ruling out of Westchester County, New York, and the precedent that that might send to any hospital or doctor that might be thinking of this sort of procedure on a minor?
Well, just exactly what Jason said there, follow the money. There's been lots of money for this so-called gender-affirming care at places like Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and state tax dollars up to more than $20 million since 2016 being spent on these procedures that mutilate children. But with these lawsuits and with now these national medical organizations speaking out against it, I think there's going to be a quick reversal, and that's something we've been calling for a long time.
Quick follow-up, Michael, that is not to do with this issue, but I thought it was interesting because there was a bill put forth in the state house last week by 3 Republicans that would allow the courts to order chemical castrations for convicted pedophiles. Is this something that the PA Family Institute would support?
Well, interestingly, these drugs that they're talking about for these chemical castrations are some of the same drugs that are actually used in the so-called gender-affirming care. So they're talking about castrating prisoners, but then we have this happening with children going into doctors and being prescribed this sort of thing.
Wow.
So back to the specifics of this legislation. It was just introduced. We're going to look more closely at it. And certainly the issue of pedophilia and continued sex abuse of children is something that needs to be addressed.
Yep. And then we'll end with you, Jason. The governor has made funding childcare a major legislative priority this year. I got to wonder, what are some of the things that New York could do? Not that they would ever do this. I mean, in a perfect world, let's put ourselves there. What are some things the state could do from a public policy perspective so that both parents of young children do not have to feel obligated to work outside the home?
You're going to hear the word affordability a lot this year. That seems to be the buzzword both at national and state elections this cycle. But listen closely to the policies. Just because the buzzword is used doesn't mean that elected official is actually moving policies that would make the state or the nation more affordable. There are things the state could do, but one of those things will be not setting up another big bloated government program that will simply mean more taxation, causing parents to have to find additional sources of income. We've got to lower the cost of government and the overall size and scope of government so we can lower taxes and make families affordable again in this state.
All right. Families thrive, governments thrive. Maybe someday somebody will figure that out. Guys, we've had a great discussion today. If you have questions about any of these topics or you simply want to learn more about New York families doing a great work in Albany, Jason, where can folks find you online?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
Stay informed on all the issues in Pennsylvania as well. Michael, where can folks find you?
PAFamily.org.
Thank you, gentlemen. Capital Connection comes your way every Friday during the Noon Report or online anytime. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Well, good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Our focus, weather-wise, is on the weekend. An Arctic cold front will slice the region Friday night with snow squalls, and in its wake, just bitterly cold, dangerously cold air will arrive. We expect wind chill Saturday morning to be between minus 15 and minus 30 with flurries and some lake snows, and the Arctic air will linger into early next week. For this afternoon, however, we'll have a mix of clouds and sunshine. Flurries will be departing areas near Lake Ontario. High temperatures 20s. Tonight, some clouds, some starlight, low temps, single digits and teens. Tomorrow morning, sun and cloudy with afternoon flurries, a high in the 20s to near 30. Watch for snow squall later tomorrow night. Bitterly cold on Saturday. Occasional snow and flurries, blowing snow, and temperatures falling. Saturday afternoon, readings will be in the single digits. Some areas will be below zero. Wind chills on Saturday from minus 15 to minus 30.
Boy, oh boy, that is cold stuff, dangerous stuff. Bundle up if you're heading out. Finally at noon today, if it feels a little extra popular today, well, there's good reason why. Family Life's Brian Query.
Today is National Bubblegum Day, a sweet celebration that's been popping up every year since 2006. The holiday is traditionally marked on the first Friday in February and was created by author Ruth Spiro to raise money for schools and charities that support children. Bubblegum itself has been around for nearly a century, with the first successful recipe developed in 1928. Since then, it's become a pop culture staple, from baseball dugouts to bubble blowing contests. Organizers say National Bubblegum Day encourages people to enjoy a simple treat while also supporting good causes. So whether you're Team Classic Pink or trying a new flavor, chew on the idea of joining in this fun and unique holiday. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Brian. And just like that, our time is up. That's our world, the world we live in. Friday, February 6th. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.